Joining me now, of course, is Mayor Nick Long and City Manager John Baumgartner. I'm going to be asking them, let's give them a round of applause, absolutely. So I'm going to be asking them a series of questions, but all of you as well have a chance to ask your own questions. So you will see on your table a card and a pen. So we'd love for you to ask your question, write your questions down. And I have two lovely ladies, Ashley Jackson and Amber Pedigo, who are in the back. They're raising their hands. So they're going to be going around and gathering your questions. And at the very end, we will pose those to Mayor Long and City Manager John Baumgartner. So let's get started. I'm going to start with you, Mayor Long. What are you most proud of that League City accomplished in 2025?
Yeah, and I think you stole my thunder a little bit with the top 10 list, but we can go.
I try to get everything in.
Exactly. I think what I'm most proud of is doing more with less. So the last one, the number one on there was decreasing the tax rate for the 11th straight year. And it's not just decreasing the tax rate. Decreasing the tax rate is actually fairly easy when the appraisals are out of control, right? So the appraisals are going up. We just have to decrease it slightly. What we kind of take it a step beyond that and go to what we call the no new revenue rate. So that is a true tax decrease. That is actually saying you're going to pay less in dollars next year, not just less in tax rate. So we've constrained the growth of government by consistently reducing the taxes. But then at the same time, the staff and everybody has done such a great job of still, with the new development we have and the new growth we have throughout the city, we've done more heavy infrastructure projects every year while still decreasing the tax rate and still adding police officers, adding EMS, adding public safety resources. So really prioritizing what we need to do and then still making sure we're able to reduce that tax rate.
John, I'll ask you the same question. What are you most proud of that we accomplished in 2025?
Yeah, so there's several things that we've done. Obviously, the video highlighted several of them. One of the things I'm most proud of is that I challenge the staff to provide world-class customer service all the time. And this year we had our 4th citizen survey. And in the citizen survey, we improved in 67 out of 97 areas. And we rank in the top 10% in the nation of cities that are surveyed. I just like to take a minute to recognize the staff that helps make all that happen. And if they could all just stand up for just a second. I won't introduce them all because there's too many of them. But I want to just thank them for all they do to provide services to the community in this state of growth that we have. And so I'm really proud of that. Really proud of the continued improvement. Obviously, there's still many things we need to do, but yes, that's what I'm most proud of.
So, Mayor Long, what do you think the biggest challenge was in 2025, and what do you think is ahead of us in 2026 as far as challenges?
Yeah, and so, our biggest challenge is we're still in that kind of fast growth area, right? So with the expansion on the west side, we have about 40% of the land undeveloped. So, when I grew up here, it was 30,000 people. Now we're at 130,000 people. And in 10 years, we'll be close to 230,000 people. So if you think about that kind of growth, it is just unbelievable. And we have one more opportunity to get it right, one more opportunity to really develop what we need to do and do it right on the west side. Learn from the things that have worked well before, learn from the things that maybe haven't worked quite as well, and then develop out that west side and really plan it out right now. So as we are increasingly becoming less dependent on property tax, we need to find other streams of revenue, sales tax, things of that nature, and then really make sure that development pays for itself. So we're not here to subsidize growth. They're not here to subsidize business, but create a predictable, kind of easy to deal with government and let good developers and good development come in, pay their own way, and help us all develop up together. So we want growth, but we're not here for growth just for growth's sake. So I look forward to kind of seeing where we're going to go from here. And really the next 4 to 5 years, we'll really chart out where we're going to be in the next 30 years beyond that.
So, John, 2025 was really a year of planning. We put together several strategic plans, including a plan for library services, economic development, and perhaps most importantly was our Westside Master Plan for the future development on the West Side. Can you talk a little bit about this and why it's so important?
Yeah, so the West Side is kind of our last major frontier for growth. And so it's important, as the mayor said, to get that right. So we had an initiative where we engaged the residents, the property owners, the development community, and took a hard look at how do we, create a sustainable community out there, how we create great neighborhoods out there, how we protect open space. And so, that effort helps, lay the foundation for growth is arriving on its doorsteps. And we look at roadway systems and how to tie the creek systems into that growth and integrate the communities with the green space.
So another question for you. When we talk about the Westside Master Plan, we have to talk about the Grand Parkway, which basically transverses through that west side of town and also is going to affect current roadways in League Cities. So this is a TxDOT project, but this is very close to League City's heart.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this is my 14th year in League City, and we've talked about Grand Parkway since I got here. I think,
But it's happening.
no, it's good news. But I think the Grand Parkway struggled for years to get interest from TxDOT and how to move it forward. I think we've arrived at the time where we're going to see something happen with the Grand Parkway. TxDOT is out there actively buying property. We sold them a piece of the Irvin Street, Pat Hallisey Park that was planned for the Grand Parkway to go through it just last week at the council meeting. They anticipate to award a construction contract by July and to begin it's a design build project, so there's some engineering before they get started moving dirt, but they'll be moving dirt in 2027 and the road will be open to citizens in 2031, and it'll go from roughly I-45 and 646 all the way to Alvin and Point South.
Mayor Long, how do you think the Grand Parkway will impact the development of League City, particularly when it comes to both commercial and residential development?
Yeah, I mean, it will fundamentally change the way we develop on the west side, on that far deep southwest side of League City. I mean, just from guy who grew up on the east side of League City, most people I don't think even knew that was in League City, right? It's all the way down by Alvin. It's pretty far away. And now the opening all that side up will really not only open it up for development of houses and things like that, it also will allow for development of light industrial and commercial on that corridor as well. So if you look at what happened on the Beltway, right? You drive around the Beltway, you see these, 5-story buildings they're kind of sprinkled throughout the Beltway. You see the big warehouses. I think we will attract some of those kind of light industrial, cleaner things to come in. Really, that side of the Beltway is equidistant from the port of Galveston, the port of Houston, and the port of Freeport. So it gives kind of a unique opportunity to locate some of those distributors and warehouse type stuff on the Grand Parkway. And that's what will, bring more jobs, bring more commercial development, bring that kind of tax value in as well. So I think it will change quite a bit and really give us another opportunity to bring in more employers into the city.
John, in addition to creating the Westside Master Plan to guide smart development, what is the city doing when it comes to ensuring that we have the infrastructure in place and for the growth of the city in the next 20 years, particularly on the west side?
Yeah, so, we are in the planning mode almost continually. As the, mayor said, the city's grown tremendously. I even just look at since 2000, we were just over 40,000 people. Today, we're almost 125, so we've almost tripled in size just in 26 years. And so, it's a constant struggle on keeping infrastructure up, whether that's water and wastewater. We're in the middle of a wastewater treatment plant expansion. We have worked hard with the city of Houston to create a sustainable water supply. We work hard on our master thoroughfare plan, extending roadways. We're working to get Hobbs Road tied into 517, Bay Area Boulevard tied into 517. Obviously, the Grand Parkway to help with east-west traffic. We work closely with TxDOT on 646 and on 517. So all of those projects are in the front of the things that we do. They all take longer than we'd like them to. And so, again, it's a constant struggle to keep up with all that growth piece while still maintaining the services the citizens expect.
Another question for you. In 2025, staff began implementing our Development Services Strategic Plan, which was really designed to streamline and improve processes with the city and to elevate trust with our developers. What progress and accomplishments have been made with the implementation of this plan?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've heard frequently is, just League City is difficult to develop in. And so Rick Davis and staff went through a strategic planning session with Development Services with a goal to improve that image of it, to improve trust. And so through that process, they went through that and incorporated the development community along with citizens and board members to help improve it. And so what we've seen is a significant reduction in the time it takes to review plats and to review permits and to get permits and plats approved and issued. And so it's been a tremendous success. They identified, a dozen different initiatives. They've got about 80% of those complete, and so it continues to be a success. We continue to hear positive comments from the development community and their ability to come into the community, understand what's expected of them, and move it through the process.
I want to jump in there real quick too. And so kind of hats off to Councilman Tommy Combs, who kind of led that initiative and kind of pushed that along. And then the idea behind that is we don't want to compromise on our standards. We want to still make sure that we are enforcing the highest development standards. We're going to push all those different things. However, time is money. Let's not be a pain to work with. Let's be business friendly, but we are going to, make sure that we go to the highest standards. So easy to work with, but with clear, tough standards on top of that.
Mayor Long, in 2025, League City led a coalition of cities and counties across the region to launch Phase 2 of a comprehensive regional flooding study. Can you explain the momentum behind Phase 2 and what's next moving forward?
Yeah, and this is, kind of hats off to Judge Mark Henry and Galveston County for helping kind of lead this as well. When you look at the big water issues that we have, drainage issues, this isn't something that League City can do on our own. The water doesn't stop at the League City border, right? It flows right into Dickinson, or Friendswood's water flows into us. So it was important that we all work together. So Judge Henry and the county and League City kind of got together a coalition in Galveston County, and then up into Brazoria, and then even all the way up into Fort Bend County. And we got everybody to pay in a little bit, based on how much water damage. Couldn't get a lot of money out of the Fort Bend guys because the water comes down here, but we got something out of them. And we went to the Army Corps of Engineers and worked with them to kind of move this next study forward. And this will talk about what we need to do on the creek, what we need to do on Dickinson Bayou, and how we can structure this across the entire region. And so it will be the first time that then we can go, once this study is done, and apply for the big dollars. And I'm talking the hundreds of millions of dollars that it will need to take to make some kind of actionable difference on those two waterways. So the city has done a good job on the things that we can do inside the city. With y'all's bond money, we've made these projects and done these things inside neighborhoods. And now the next step is the real big time money that we'll take from the federal government to make kind of fundamental changes in the actual two waterways.
John, League City has a capital improvement program that is made up of projects that maintain, expand, and improve our infrastructure. We saw in the video we invested $45 million in 2025. What are some of the CIP projects that are currently underway and moving forward in 2026 that we'll see?
So we've done a lot of work to get our projects approved. As we say, they all take too long. And so, a couple of them that come to mind, Pat Halsey Park, which should be under construction late this year. Lobet Park is under construction today with Phase 1. The kayak launch ramp is almost complete if it's not complete. They're at FM 270. We made improvements on League City Parkway. We added a right turn lane eastbound from Hobbs Road all the way to I-45. We've seen tremendous difference in how that impacts us. The Walker Street Highway 96 bottleneck improvement should be under construction this year. The other one, which is State Highway 3 and FM 518s, maybe a year or so away from moving forward. Again, continue to invest in water and sewer infrastructure. One of my favorite programs is we look at League City. A third of it's, over 25 years old. And so we have what we call the reinvestment program. So that reinvests in sidewalks in neighborhoods that have shifted or what have you, or streets that are starting to fail, and patches those. And it's about a $7 million program a year. And so all of that makes a difference in people's lives, and we see a lot of input on that. So lots of different projects. I think all the work with TxDOT, which is continue to keep those projects moving, is some of the work we work on.
Mayor Long, recently the League City Council voted to adopt an ordinance related to derelict boats in the city. Can you elaborate on the ordinance and explain the purpose behind it?
Yeah, and it's kind of a two-phase deal, but we have several different marinas inside the city, and we've kind of looked up one day and saw this issue happening. Some of the marinas were bad actors, frankly, and they were pushing boats out in the lake. So at one point we had 30 boats either sunk or in process of sinking throughout the lake. And it creates obviously all kinds of issues. It comes from safety. Some of these were sunk with just the mast coming up. You hit that at night, it's not going to be great. There's safety, there's environmental issues, and then also during storms, these boats become dislodged during storms, smash into bulkheads, smash into homes, and cause damage. And so it was a huge problem. And obviously, the lake is not all in League City jurisdiction. It's in 10 different cities and 2 different counties. So we kind of led the effort there to develop this derelict boat ordinance and to stop some of these things from happening. On top of that, we also had kind of an unregulated issue with liveaboards. There was multiple different marinas that did a great job and they really had no problems. There was 2 that were particularly problematic, and something had to be done. We're already seeing improvements from this, and seeing the problems kind of ebb, and the issues in the 2 marinas already getting better. We're working with the liveaboard community to make a couple changes they brought to us. Another one with Councilman Cones and I are working on that. I think we all agree that something needs to be done. They agree, we agree, and now we're going to update that ordinance to take some of the more objectionable things that they just didn't like out of it. And I think we're going to end up in a good place where we can have a successful liveaboard program in League City. We can prevent dumping of sewage into the waterways, and we can stop kind of the bad actors of just abandoning boats into the lake.
Another question for you, Mayor Long. Our current population is 125,884. That's the new number that's come in. As you mentioned, we're expected to double that in the next 20 to 30 years. As we develop and continue to grow, what are we doing to bring new jobs and businesses to League City?
Yeah, I think the number one thing we can do is to make the city easy to work with. And so the more we do that, you'll see naturally the businesses come in. We are not going to be in the business of just paying for businesses to come into the city, right? We've had opportunities where we could have paid somebody $65 million and it would have returned barely any money over the next 25 years. That's just not a good use of taxpayers' funds, right? We're not going to be in a bidding war against other businesses or against other cities for those kind of businesses. However, if you're talking about relocating corporate headquarters, doing things like that, bringing in more high-tech jobs, aerospace, oil and gas, logistics type firms, and bringing in headquarters that create high-paying jobs, that is more, I think, something that the council would have appetite to entertain. So I don't look at us to get in bidding wars for big box stores. Just it's not a good business, and frankly, you never make your money back on that. But if you look at the deal we did with INEOS a couple years ago, we invested, I think, around $250,000 of city money to help them stay. They then bought like a $20 million building, and we've made that money back 10 times over and kept 500 very high-paying jobs in League City. So we will look for deals like that. We will not get in bidding wars for big box stores.
John, you talked a little bit about this. Maintaining our parks and recreational facilities are a top priority for our city, and our residents tell us that in when we do our surveys. What are some of the current park projects that are underway? What's on the horizon, and how are we working with developers to make sure we're getting parkland?
So as it relates to working with the development community, we have fairly high standards and expectations of them. And so they have to pay into a fund, the Parks Dedication Fund. It's about $3,000 per new home. And so that's one way that we do that. The other way they do that is they dedicate land at the same time. And so they have to either dedicate land, pay park dedication fees, and that helps us fund future parks and get future park land for development. As it relates to the park program in general, it is very, very robust. We've spent years getting permits in, around the threshold to get some of those bigger projects underway. We talked about the Pat Hallisey Park on Irvin Street. It's about it's a 106-acre tract. We sold some of that off to about an 85-acre park. It includes 5 softball fields, soccer fields, baseball fields, walking track or jogging track around it. It should be out to bid in, I'm looking at the February or March, was already February, so March timeframe. And then we have to sell debt in order to get it going. So likely get started late this year, early in 2027. The boat ramp is finally coming around for reconstruction. It's in miserable condition. It's been in miserable conditions for several years. That should get underway late this year, early next year. We talked about the bridge that we built out there by Gilmore Elementary that, tied into trail sections, tied neighborhoods, connected the school to those neighborhoods. Lobet Park has a phase 1 project that's under construction.
With pickleball courts, by the way, at Lobet. We have to mention that.
Pickleball courts at Lobet. And then there's 2 phases to Lobet. One is the baseball field in the existing facility, refurbishing then, and the second phase is adding soccer field and the trail around that.
And then the important part about Lobet too, that was a partnership with the county. We got the land for, basically nothing. Actually got some money from the county as well to take over that park to then refurbish it. So if anybody's been looking for, you just look at real estate prices in League City, it's incredibly expensive to go try to buy, 50 acres of land somewhere in League City. So getting that land at no cost from the county was a big help. And that was the county judge, Mark Henry, and his team and the other commissioners that were able to make that happen for League City.
Mayor Long, you've been very vocal about making sure developers pay for new development and the infrastructure that new development involves. Can you elaborate on that and what we are doing as a city to make sure that happens?
Yeah. So fundamentally, right, the land's not going anywhere. We don't need to give away the land or cut a bunch of special deals to get development in there. There was a time in this city where you had to do that when maybe we were a little bit sleepier and nobody really heard of League City. At this point, we only need high value development coming in, right? You saw the slide that built 800 homes last year. 800 to 1,000 homes is all we could really take because we don't want to get behind on the water. We don't want to get behind on the roads. We want to stay and build those up in front. So we are going to make sure that when we're developing something and we're putting in those high standards, and you've heard the word sustainable development a couple times. That's not like some hippie green energy type thing. That is quite literally like sustainable from a sense that you don't see it just degrade and degrade and degrade over 20 years. I hate to bash on Clear Lake, but when I grew up here, Clear Lake was the best, right? That was the fancy homes. That was where everybody wanted to live. And now a lot of those neighborhoods in Clear Lake have not been reinvested into since the city of Houston took it over. And you can see they have turned from single family homes into rental homes, and it has degraded over the years. It has degraded significantly over the years. And so by creating that sustainable investment in the sustainable infrastructure we're talking about is high quality roads and high quality infrastructure that have a funding source to go replace them over their useful life. It's also about setting things up right from the beginning. What we used to do all the times is put the oak trees between the road and the sidewalk. That looks great. They grow up really fast. It looks great. And then it stops popping the road up and messing the sidewalks up, and everything kind of degrades from there. So making sure that we do things right the first time from a codes perspective, from a infrastructure perspective, and from just a business deal structure set up on the front side. And so when I talked about we have to take the lessons we've learned before, we've learned some hard lessons and we've made some bad deals in the past, and we got to take those lessons and then apply those in the future to not make the same mistakes again.
Can you talk a little bit about capital recovery fees? I think a lot of our residents don't understand that developers are paying for these roads and water and wastewater.
That's a great point. So we have capital recovery fees. And so what basically this means is that when you put in a subdivision, right, you're paying for the roads and everything. Everybody understands you're paying for your own roads and you're paying for your own pipes inside your subdivision. However, you got to think about it. That subdivision, that 1,000 new homes you're putting in, that also impacts the major roads, the Highway 96 and 646 and all those different roads. It also, those pipes, they have to get tied in somewhere, and that goes back to the sewer plant. And those sewer plants cost a couple $100 million a piece. So when you're putting in this new development, you're paying your fair share of that money. And we hire engineers and consultants to figure out what that fair share is. But so you're paying for your impact on the community as a whole. And they are very, very high. They are not cheap because this infrastructure is so expensive. And so that's why when we say we want to find development that is going to pay their fair share, no more, no less, but they're going to pay for their impact. And that way, if they don't pay for the impact, then who would? Well, the taxpayers would have to front it, right? And so our idea is we want new development in the city, but we're not going to give you the taxpayer money to pay for it. You're going to pay your money your own way, pay your money, pay your fair share, and then you're welcome to come develop out in League City and do it in a responsible way. And so we know it's expensive to develop here because of that and because we're not offering subsidies. But I think the good thing is, and you can see it, we're already developing at a fast clip and as fast as we need to. So we just need to make it easy and predictable to be here, and people are willing to pay for the high quality development that comes in behind it.
As we saw in the video, Mayor Long, League City has earned national and state recognition for being one of the most desirable, affordable, and safest places to live, as well as a great place to retire and move to in Texas. What makes League City so unique in your mind, and why do you think we rank so high on these lists?
So I think there's, break it into a couple different things. Retirement side, we took a step this year, and we put the homeowners exemption at $200,000 for seniors. That's the highest in the state of Texas. And so it really is making it that much more affordable for seniors to live here. And we've also maxed out the regular homeowners exemption, which is maxed out at 20%. And so we took all these different steps inside of it. And then ultimately, I think it does come down to safety, right? And we have a fantastic police department that so many times when I drive around the city, they're going above and beyond. I see them helping people change tires. I see them doing all these different things, community type policing, and it makes a difference. And they really are on top of what's happening here. When you see a spike in crime, they're putting special kind of units and special things inside of it to get on top of that again. And then you look at the fire department, and that is really, I think, where we're the most unique, right? We are a city of 125,000 people with a volunteer fire department. And that is kind of neat to see. And it's become such a part of the community. It saves us, $10, $20 million a year, and they still provide outstanding service at an ISO 1 level, which is the highest level that you can provide it at. And then we've drastically expanded the EMS as well. And so you can see with our EMS, we've gone just in the last few years, added several different ambulances and expanded that coverage. So public safety is so important. And I think that's why, you see these different rankings. And then also we strive to make it affordable. And that's the idea, is to eventually eliminate property I don't know if it'll happen, but eventually eliminate property taxes completely, switch to more of use taxes, and kind of go that way. So continually reducing the burden of property taxes.
John, same question for you. What do you think makes League City so unique, and why we keep topping these lists?
Well, it's a lot of different things. The small hometown feel, the special events that happen at League Park. Certainly Holiday in the Park is a big deal. And those kind of things make people feel like family, makes neighbors helping neighbors. We all pull together when bad things happen, storms and that kind of thing. And so, we have great school districts that serve us, and the community is happy with all of those things. It's a great place to raise a family.
Another question for you, John. As we saw in the video, League City has an internal initiative called the Elevate Academy, where employees earn benefits for streamlining processes, cutting costs, and enhancing efficiency. I want to say I have my green belt and my black belt, as you saw in the video. The program has been extremely successful. Can you elaborate on its successes?
Yeah, so the Elevate program obviously is an engagement tool for our employees, and has really been successful in getting people to think about League City and why we do things and how we do things. Have brought forward several initiatives that will save us ultimately a few $1 million a year. One in particular that's easy to measure, and we're working hard to implement it, is we're going to take over all the streetlights in League City. And so that initiative will save $500,000 or $600,000 a year ultimately in service charges. And so what we've seen from TNNP in particular, as we move from high pressure sodium yellow street lights to the LED lights, the charge for those lights on a monthly basis goes from $12 to $25. And so you can imagine with 6,000 lights, what does that mean? And so we hope, as we move forward with the acquisition of the streetlight system and then improving all the lights to LED, again, to save several $100,000 a year, to improve our ability to time the maintenance. We call in lights and it's a week, it's 2 weeks, it's 3 weeks, it's years to get them back in service. A lot of them have aged, and so they need to be removed and replaced. And so that's a great program, will be a great initiative for the community and see improvements.
And that came from an employee.
And that came from an employee, yes. I think he's here, David Tickell.
David Tickell, yeah.
He's shaking his head.
He's shaking his head because we're calling him out. Sorry, David.
He's also charged with implementation, and so we're working through that.
Yeah, you come up with an idea, then you got to implement it. That's
And then
how it
we're
works.
responsible for fixing them, so he's got his work cut out for him.
So we saw in the video, and you mentioned it already, Mayor Long, that we had a tax reduction in 2025 for the 11th consecutive year. How have you been able to do this and remain fiscally strong?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. So obviously growth helps. So when we're decreasing taxes, but we're still adding, 800 homes a year and more businesses, so the total dollar amount still goes up. The other side is we took a really hard look a couple years ago, and we continued to do this to make sure that the taxpayers are not subsidizing services across the board. So really look at what we're charging development services, look at what we're charging in engineering, look at what we're charging in all these different places, and put the cost of that back on the users of the product, right? So more of an enterprise type style instead of a property tax supported system. And so by doing that to department by department, by also going in there and putting the capital recovery fees on. So if you're causing expense to the taxpayers, you're going to pay that. And then continually decreasing the reliance on property taxes. And then finally, the other big thing that helps us out a lot is obviously the rise in sales tax, and particularly the rise of online shopping. So we are a city, we don't have a big mall or anything like that. But as people start going online, we are capturing all that online sales tax. And so that has really helped us kind of fill those gaps. And it's certainly not easy, and the staff does a great job, but it's about looking for those opportunities to put the cost back on the people that caused the cost to be incurred by the city, and then being very diligent and know that every year we're going to reduce the tax rate below the no new revenue rate, so a true tax rate every single year.
We talked about public safety and how important it is for our residents and for the city. And we recently started a new business district unit that's targeting crime along the interstate. Can you tell us about that and honestly the successes it's had so far?
Yeah, and so you'll see it kind of up and down I-45, right? The organized, semi-organized crime coming down from Houston, targeting people in the central business district, the Walmart, Target, Home Depot area, right there off the freeway. And so we created this unit. We also used a variety of kind of technological advances as well. And so it's called flock cameras. They're tracking the license plates. They are able to then see, when the crime happens, follow these people back up the highway back to Houston or south or points beyond that, and actually start breaking some of these things up. And there's been a couple of really kind of high profile successes. Also had a recent major arrest on a kind of organized crime wheels and tires deal. So the police force has really spent a lot of time making specific changes to be more efficient in policing and kind of leveraging technology and leveraging communication across the region to make a big difference.
John, you talked a little bit about this. We worked with a research company called ETC to conduct a citizen satisfaction survey. We've done this, I think this is our 4th or 5th time doing it. We're having a presentation actually at next week's council meeting. So you, of course, watch on Facebook or come on out to the council meeting. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the results and give us a little sneak peek, particularly on what we're doing well and what we might need to work a little bit more on?
Yeah. So, just as a whole, 94% of the citizens rate us as superior or great or good for, services provided to the, community. We see highly rated departments of fire, police, in parks and recreation. And so.
And I want to point out Mayor Waste because we've ranked very high.
Solid waste.
Solid waste.
Third on the list.
Third on the list.
They were ahead of police, if I recall.
Yeah.
So the solid waste folks are out there every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
They did sponsor breakfast today,
Yes.
and so
That's why I had to give them another shout out.
we're proud of them. But nonetheless, we're proud of the results of the survey. The results increase year over year. I expect us to win the
Leading the Way award.
Leading the Way award for the third time, and so. But all that said, all the great things said, there are still areas where we need to improve, and the survey obviously identifies those. And it's still the traffic, and we continue to invest in traffic. We continue to invest in drainage. We continue to invest in street repairs and that kind of things. And those are the things that they identify. And we use that tool to help improve those areas too. And those areas continue to improve. They're just still at the bottom of our list and where we need to make more improvements. Obviously, that's driven by growth and driven by changes in the community. We've made tremendous investment in transportation throughout the years, but it struggles behind the growth curve.
Mayor Long, what goals do you and City Council have for the next few years, and what vision do you have for League City overall?
Yeah, so I think it's really pretty straightforward for me, at least. It is to continue to create an atmosphere where businesses can grow, prosper, bring in more development at a reasonable cost in which they are paying their own way, and then reinvesting that money into lowering the tax rate and continuing to look for ways to improve the public infrastructure, whether that be roads or drainage or parks or community activities, and kind of keep that small town feel in a city that is approaching 200,000 people in the next decade. And so that's difficult, and it's difficult to do for a variety of reasons, right? Where when I grew up here, you'd only think of League City as Clear Creek ISD, and now obviously Dickinson ISD is a rapidly growing district, and now there's a lot of kids. I think we might have the most kids in Dickinson ISD, and then beyond that, when the West Side Santa Fe ISD, we'll start having kids in Santa Fe ISD. So as the city grows, I think one of the biggest challenges is keeping that small town feel and keeping a cohesive city across 55 square miles or whatever it is. And so we'll have to continually find ways to do that. Your department will have to keep throwing these big community events to try to bring people together and form that cohesion.
John, what can residents look forward to in 2026? Kind of what's on the horizon?
So I think we talk a lot about the projects that we've ramped up that are getting ready to launch, and so we'll see more construction out there. And my goal is to try to move the projects along faster while still maintaining a high quality of services. I mean, 80% of what we do is provide services to the public, whether that's public safety or streets and drainage or traffic or water and wastewater. And about 20% is the projects, and to continue to move those forward in spite of whatever obstacles and permits we have to get. So we'll see more construction. I think we have a lot of things ramped up here in the horizon.
So now the time you've all been waiting for, I have a stack of questions. Wow, it's huge. So I'm going to look through these real quick. Anything you guys would like to add before we get to our citizen questions? You're ready?
Ready? Get into it.
When will handicap accessible doors be installed on all city buildings? I know no one who has been able to access or input to citizen surveys related to handicap services. Who would like to take on that question?
I didn't understand. Handicap.
So basically, will handicap accessible doors be installed on city buildings?
That's a continued process. If there's a specific building or something that's lacking it, because handicap doors, some are push button and then some are based on weight. And if there's a door that's giving somebody particular trouble, please send me an email and we'll take
or come on up after this event is concluded, and John will be happy to talk with you. How does the city monitor and measure the flood mitigation efforts? What follow-up is done after the projects are completed?
Through, as everybody knows, in 2019, we, initiated the bond program, and we've completed most of those projects. And so they're not all complete. Some have other challenges, but the majority of them are complete. And so, after the storms and after the rain events, we go back out there and we look at for what's happening and what improvements that have been made. And if we need to come in and adjust stuff, then we'll continue to do that. So that's how we monitor. We word of mouth. People call us.
And don't be afraid to call us.
But David DeKell and his people, they go out there and they drive them after rainstorms or during rainstorms.
And then some of those areas we put gauges on as well.
Yeah, we've enhanced our ability to measure flood flows in the creeks.
This is another flood-rated question. Will there be a flood map study?
FEMA just adjusted their flood maps, and so there's not necessarily a study that's planned immediately. We do have several drainage initiatives where we're studying specific points throughout the community to help enhance what's not studied in the FEMA floodplain maps. It's ongoing.
Status of the Ike Dike. I'm going to put that one to you, Mayor Long.
Yeah. Well, it's $8 billion or whatever it is. So it's languishing, I would say, is the status at this point. It's going to take, I think the state has done what they can at this point. It's going to take a bigger partnership at the federal level to be able to push that forward. So I think it's going to be tough, but I think there's a lot of things that we can do. And so we talked earlier about working with the Army Corps engineers and doing the regional study. Those studies will all kind of be part of that greater conversation that we're having. Also, I think there's a push to look at more regionalization of drainage. Right now, if you look across Galveston County, there's a lot of little drainage districts, and none of them really have a budget or expertise to get anything done. And so the talk has been for a couple of years is how can we leverage drainage across the greater region. So you have Harris County flood control. How can we bring Galveston and Brazoria and the other counties into that as well and create a more regionalized approach? And so I think that is where the talk is at this point, is to look for more of a regional approach on drainage, that we can do the big drainage projects and really have some expertise to be able to facilitate that.
This one also for you, Mayor Long, and I think it relates to the West Side. How will natural areas, nature parks, and parks fit into future development?
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of what's going to happen on the West Side. So, you probably don't know this, but on the West Side, there's these giant sand pits all over the place, and they mine sand out there for years, and they're kind of neat. They're kind of crystal blue water, neat features. And so, in the grand plan that they've worked out, they wanted to create something kind of unique. They wanted to create something that is not just a city filled with mosquito-laden retention pits, right? So we need something kind of neat with it. So they've worked with it and amenitized the drainage. And so tying in those sand pits, tying in all the retention ponds and detention ponds out there, amenitizing them to be, flow from one to the other as a kind of canoe and paddle track, and then putting walkways around there as well, and keeping kind of some natural areas in there at the same time. So using the natural features of the land out there, taking advantage of that, and then leveraging all that together to put something kind of unique out there that will serve a purpose and still hold the water, but be a great kind of amenity as well.
I'll start with you, John, but this is a fun question. If you could sum up with League City in one word, what would it be?
Awesome.
That's a good word. What about you, Mayor Long?
So I think the greatest compliment that I can get from anybody is that it's easy to live here, right? So trying to remove the general pain, right? Whether that be starting a business or building a house or driving across 5 corners at traffic time. So everything's easy, but we're trying to make it as easy as possible to live here.
What's your one word?
It's easy.
Easy. Okay, easy. Got it. I'm going to pose this question to you, Mayor Long, as well. How do you stand on assigning ICE on the immigrant situation?
I don't assigning ICE. Well, obviously, it's a federal program, but I'll tell you what we do from that side, right? So we participated in the 287G program, which is a federal program in which we partner with ICE in a variety of different ways. And so really the part that we're partnering with them on is we're able to hold people on ICE detainers. And so brought up the organized crime. We've busted a couple of pretty major organized crime rings in League City, one of which I can talk about, and that was the property theft ring. When they were investigating that side of it, they were not able to get all the evidence they needed. They found that the people that were kind of running this operation were all illegal. They were able to hold them for an additional 24 hours till they made the case, and they brought down that entire organized crime ring based on that. So our officers are not, running immigration work. That is the job of ICE. However, we are partnering with ICE to go after organized crime in League City. And the other side of that is we're working with the state government through Operation Lone Star. We've received several $100,000 in overtime expenses paid for and equipment through that program as well. So it's ICE's job to enforce the immigration side. It is our job to enforce the laws and go after criminals. And we can certainly use the tools provided by the federal government and ICE to do our job on a day-to-day basis.
John, I'll pose this one to you. What is taking place with the Blue Building at Main and Park Street? There's a lot of chuckles on that one.
Well, yeah. So the Blue Building, we've looked for partners to help us reinvest on that tract of land to perhaps develop a catalyst project. We're on negotiations with one particular investor, and hopefully we'll be able to bring something forward on that shortly.
Are there any projects planned for the east side of the city? I know we talked a lot about the west side.
Immediately, the one thing that we're working on the east side is with TxDOT and 646 and trying to get that roadway project under construction. That will take from Highway 3 all the way to 146 to be 4-lane divided. It'll be a bridge over Highway 3, a bridge over the railroad. They're currently working on, obviously, we partner in that. We continue to do reinvestment projects, particularly on the east side, particularly in the South Shore area and the sidewalks and that kind of thing. Lobet Park is under construction. The second phase is planned for that. So we continue to make investments. One of the things we hear on the east side, obviously, is traffic, particularly on State Highway 96. We've tried to get our TxDOT partners to start looking at that, and we talk about League City Parkway all the way from Hobbs Road all the way to 146 to make improvements. As I've talked about before, any of those projects take years to advance, and so we're continuing discussions, nothing announced at this time.
And then I think you're going to see some small infill retail throughout the east side. So we're seeing some of that build out, particularly on 270. There's several different littler developments coming in there.
And we're seeing that activity up there on 96 by Marbella, too.
Absolutely.
These are more comments, and folks that submitted these comments are welcome to come up at the end of the event to talk to the two gentlemen. Red light runners are getting unreal. I've even seen school buses run them too. So you have a particular area in town, please come tell us, because we want our police department to know about that. Another comment, please consider a library presence on the west side. No one expects a whole new library, but a presence is needed. This one is more of a question, street maintenance. Streets such as Abilene are sinking at the edges. Is there any plan to repair these roads?
Yeah, we have a very active reinvestment program. We've spent a lot of money on asphalt streets, usually a couple $1 million a year. And so we'll get David and the Public Works people to take a look at Abilene and see if we need to do short-term versus what we need to do with longer term.
And then going back to the library question on the west side. So I think that is in the kind of long-term goal. And I wouldn't say it's going to be a library, right? Because like a big book warehouse, I don't think that's what it's going to be. I think it's going to be kind of a community center, a meeting space, / park, and kind of develop all that together with, some library access as well, but maybe not the same size as this, but have a place with programming and community center focus over there on the west side. And I think we have a couple of places that we've looked at putting that, and that will be on our, near term goals as we continue to kind of build out parks.
Will the Amazon facility on 96 ever be used? I'm not going to sure who wants to tackle it this
It is
one.
being used now.
What is it being used for?
I think Amazon's using it.
Is it?
Amazon and Tesla are both using it.
Okay, there we go. Well, the new residential Duncan track, Samara, in the near future, there will be a point in that subdivision where there's different school districts will converge. Is there any discussion being held to have any of these neighborhoods rezoned for school district boundaries?
that it is an ISD, and the I stands for independence. We don't have anything to do with it.
We have our superintendents back there, so yeah, you can.
Both hiding now.
Yeah, they are hiding. Yeah. Oh, this is one of my favorites. Is there any plan for a Trader Joe's?
If anybody knows Trader Joe, tell them. We'd love to.
You can go on their website specifically and request it in our city. So the more that do it.
I would say that is probably like the top 3 question I get all the time.
Yeah.
For just every time somebody like clears a lot, somebody will call me, is that going to be a Trader Joe's? I was like, how about I just tell you if it's ever coming? But right now,
it will be a big announcement. You will know if Trader Joe's is coming.
We're ready for Trader Joe's
Yeah,
to come.
yeah. What is the plan for 528 in front of Clear Creek High School?
That might be in relation to the development there, but there is a development that is coming in there. It's a multifamily development. I'm sure it'll be nice. We tried pretty hard to stop it, frankly. Didn't want it to be there, but, it's their right. It's their land. So there is going to be a kind of mixed-use development there, apartments on top, some commercial on the bottom, and it's called The League. It'll be right over there.
When will 646 be expanded to 4 lanes?
Yeah, and so we've talked about that. It's an active project with TxDOT. They actually bid it last year. They're in the process of moving utilities and got hung up on that. And so because there's damages for delay, they're talking about having to rebid that. And so it's probably still a couple of years away before that construction will actually start.
What specific strategies is the city implementing to ensure that young families and first-time home buyers can afford to live in the community they work?
Yeah, I think a big part of affordability that we can control is we can control the tax rates, and then really we can help with the insurance rates too, right? And so a big part of buying a house are those 2 aspects of it. And the other side of that is looking at MUDs. And so what we often try to do is we try to make sure these MUDs wrap up quickly, that they're not an organism that just takes on a life of its own. I think too long in the city, you can trace MUDs that are 50 years old. That really shouldn't happen. And so when we are putting these things in place, we're setting them up in such a way that their property tax is capped, that their life on this earth is capped, and they can't keep renewing themselves and taking out more debt. And we're trying to make it most efficient to lower the other parts that make up your mortgage in order to keep the homes as affordable as possible.
This may be more of a comment, but you may want to come up and talk to these gentlemen at the end. The 96 noise is becoming increasingly problematic for the 300-plus houses at the Village at Tustin Lakes. Please consider additional sound barrier resolutions near the bridge, or perhaps more trees along the bridge roadway area. We're almost nearing the question. You want to comment on that? No?
No, I mean, I think the trees idea is a good one, and I think we can look into what we can do on that.
Many of the culverts beneath roads are half full of dirt and litter from gradual buildup. These restrict flow and level. What is being done to remove those bottlenecks in our culverts?
So we have David, stand up so everybody can see.
Oh my gosh, poor David.
This is David.
This is David. Yeah.
David is responsible for public works operations, streets, drainage, traffic. Lots of people know him. They call him directly. He calls them back. And so if you see a particular issue with sediment buildup or trees growing at the mouths of the culverts and stuff, feel free to send me an email, send David an email. And we have active equipment. We have active programs. We excavate 40 or 50 miles of ditch every year. And so I know we don't do every area. And so again, and perhaps missed one, they have regular inspection programs. But if you see something that bothers you, please let us know.
Man, David's going to be on his hands and knees cleaning out culverts, and then in the air, switching out.
Yeah, his phone's going to be ringing off the hook.
David and his team of 40? All right, 61. See, doing good. He's got 20 extra. I didn't know about them.
What is being done about multifamily developments that are being transferred from private ownership to public ownership?
Yeah. that's a huge problem. Well, it was a huge problem. I could say thank you to Dr. Bonin and the state legislature for fixing this problem. So people that don't know what happened. There was essentially some kind of loophole. They could take these privately owned apartment complexes, move them into a public entity, so a housing authority based out of South Texas. Often, some of them were coming from Brownsville, so they would then own this apartment complex in League City, and then they don't have to pay taxes on it anymore. The developer would then, give some money to that other public entity for doing that, and so now we're stuck with a multifamily development that doesn't pay taxes. Obviously, that is not what the law was ever intended to do. It's not intended for you to just go outside your jurisdiction, start grabbing up apartment complexes all over. So the state legislature fixed it. It is no longer an issue. However, we still have 3 or 4 of them that they already did this to. And so now we have to wait several years and have this kind of unwind. But, it cost us several $1 million before the state could fix the issue.
So in respect of everyone's time, we're a little bit over. So I got to almost all your questions. I either couldn't read it or we already answered it. But if you feel like your question wasn't answered, please come up at the end. These 2 gentlemen will be here. And so I want to thank them for joining us today. Let's give them a round of applause, please.